What would you sacrifice for a love that could change your destiny? Welcome to Happiness of Love, your daily dose of K-dramas. Get ready to fall in love with unforgettable stories. Can you tell us where are you listening from? Sophie Kim's heart raced as she dashed down the hotel corridor, her white dress clinging to her legs, the whispers of her family echoing in her mind, demanding and suffocating. She could still feel the weight of the diamond ring they had forced onto her finger, a symbol of a life she had never chosen. The luxurious seaside hotel loomed ahead, lit by the soft glow of the moon against the crashing waves, offering a promise of escape. Bursting through the heavy doors, she felt the rush of cool air envelop her, a stark contrast to the stifling expectations she had just fled. Meanwhile, in a private suite upstairs, Ethan Park sat in silence, his fingers poised over the piano keys, but the notes refused to flow. The renowned pianist was a ghost in his own life, fame and fortune now overshadowed by the dark cloud of his illness. As he drew a deep breath, a storm rumbled outside, its fury mirroring the tempest within. The power flickered and died, leaving the hotel in darkness, and for a brief moment, Ethan's world froze. Sophie, having taken refuge in the hotel bar for a moment of calm, was startled by the sudden dimness. She could hear the distant sound of piano keys being struck softly, the melancholy notes piercing through her confusion and wrapping around her like a familiar blanket. Curiosity pulled her towards the sound as she shoved aside her worries, her heart pounding with anticipation and defiance. She stepped carefully into the lounge, where silhouettes danced in the shadows, and the faintest scent of whiskey hung in the air like an uninvited guest. It was there, in the gentle light of candles flickering in the corners, that she saw him, a man of striking presence, deeply lost in a mournful melody. Sophie felt an inexplicable connection, though she had no idea who he was. Gathering her courage, she positioned herself near the piano, her senses sharp. She could see the way his brow furrowed in concentration, feel the raw pain he infused into each keystroke, and smell the musky cologne that told stories of a life lived under the spotlight. It was almost sacrilegious to critique an artist so revered, yet she couldn't help herself. As the haunting melody concluded, she clapped lightly, and his head snapped up, a look of surprise mixed with irritation crossing his face. Without thinking, she blurted out that he played with such despair, urging him to infuse his music with more joy or emotion, anything but this somber numbness. Ethan blinked, taken aback, and for a moment, the tension hung thick in the air. She didn't know who he was, but her words struck a nerve, igniting a flash of irritation that swiftly transformed into intrigue. "And what would you know of music?" he asked, cold and distant, yet curiosity danced in his eyes. Sophie met his gaze with steadfast determination, undeterred by his harsh tone. "I know it's not about perfection, it's about feeling. If you can't express that, why even play?" In that instant, they were linked by an unforeseen force, two souls standing at the precipice of something monumental, unaware of how fate was weaving their lives together with every word exchanged. The storm outside roared louder, sneaking into the lounge, mirroring the tumultuous beginnings of their entangled fates, a compelling prelude to an unforgettable romance that neither could have foreseen. Sophie Kim embraced her new anonymity as she slipped through the opulent corridors of the luxurious seaside hotel, the sound of crashing waves outside filling her with a sense of freedom she hadn't felt in years. Here, under an assumed identity, she thought she could breathe again, far from the looming expectations of her family and the suffocating pressure of her broken engagement. The hotel exuded elegance. The rich scent of fresh flowers mingled with salty sea air, and the laughter of holiday-goers was like an enchanting melody. Yet, her heart felt heavy as she took on her temporary job as a waitress, fully aware that, despite the beauty surrounding her, the shadows of her past lingered in every corner. One evening, as she maneuvered through the high-end lounge serving drinks, a haunting melody drifted from the grand piano, capturing her attention. Sophie's steps faltered, her heart racing as she recognized the familiar cadence of a bluesy yet heartbreaking tune. With a mix of curiosity and an inexplicable pull, she ventured closer to the source of the music, her breath hitching when she realized it was Ethan Park, the world-renowned pianist she had casually overheard whispers about during her shifts. He sat alone, absorbed in his playing, the rich timbre of the piano echoing the tormented emotions he concealed behind his stoic expression. Caught between admiration and impulsivity, Sophie felt a magnetic force nudging her toward him. With her heart pounding in her chest, she approached, drawn not only by the music but by the man behind it. As she leaned against the grand piano, she hesitated, yet the urge to join him surged within her. Summoning her courage, she placed her hands on the keys beside his, the contact between their fingers surprising and electric. She let her instincts guide her, weaving an untrained yet vibrant melody that unwound through the air, adding layers to his melancholic tune. Ethan, taken aback, looked at her with a mixture of astonishment and intrigue as he felt the raw spirit of her playing intertwine with his own. "What are you doing?" he said, his voice low and slightly disbelieving, yet curious about this stranger's audacity to interfere in his solace. Sophie responded by saying it was unthinkable to play alone when the music beckoned for collaboration, her spirit fiercely unyielding. He regarded her with a raised eyebrow, assessing whether her reckless enthusiasm was a mere whim or potentially something more profound. Internally, Ethan wrestled with the emotions this encounter stirred within him, yet as he continued to play alongside her, he noticed something extraordinary. Her passion and spontaneity were unlike anything he had experienced, and a tiny flame ignited deep within him, something he thought had long been extinguished by his condition and the burdens it carried. Realizing he had a rare opportunity, Ethan proposed a deal that shocked them both. He would teach her how to play properly, helping her harness her talent, but in return, she must help him rekindle his love for music. The proposition caught Sophie off guard, her surprise evident as excitement surged through her veins, its intoxicating allure promising a fresh start, a chance to break free from her past and dive into an uncertain yet thrilling relationship with a man who was just as damaged as she was. Though skepticism clouded her mind, doubts wafted through like ghosts of her upbringing and the expectation to conform, she felt an undeniable urge to prove herself and follow this unexpected path. After a moment that stretched endlessly between them, reflecting the weight of her decision, she agreed to the unusual arrangement, a sense of determination licking at her heart. Sophie was wholly unaware of how this decision would intertwine their fates, nor that they would endure fiery clashes and moments of unexpected tenderness as they wove a tapestry of emotions that neither was equipped to handle. In taking that leap, she had not just resolved to learn an instrument, she had signed on for a tumultuous journey that would redefine her understanding of love, passion, and ultimately, herself. They were two lost souls, desperately seeking something more in a world that had taught them to be cautious, their fates now linked in a fragile yet beautiful dance on the edge of destiny. As their lessons progressed, an undeniable chemistry bloomed between Ethan and Sophie, a combination of laughter and tension woven into the fabric of their shared moments at the piano. Each day felt like stepping into a new dimension, the air around them charged with potential as they navigated the intricate dance of music and emotion. Ethan, with his stoic exterior and guarded heart, found himself increasingly captivated by Sophie's fiery spirit and innate musicality. He observed the way her fingers seemed to glide over the keys, unwittingly creating melodies that echoed with the joy and pain of life itself. The way she laughed at her own mistakes, a beautiful sound that broke through the silence of his secluded world, made him feel a warmth he hadn't allowed himself to experience in years. During one particularly emotional lesson, as Ethan guided Sophie's hands over the piano keys, he sensed a shift in the atmosphere. Each note they played resonated with a deeper meaning, the piano becoming a conduit for the feelings they both tried so hard to suppress. When her gaze met his, the intensity between them became palpable, the sound of the piano fading into the background as their hearts aligned. In a moment of playful challenge, Sophie quipped that she could play better if he showed her his real abilities, and he merely smiled, aware that she couldn't even fathom the depths of his struggles. That evening, as they stood close together, and he teased her about her technique, their laughter mingled in the air, creating a tangible connection that drew them in like magnets. As the final note hung suspended in the air, the world outside faded away, giving way to a heightened awareness. Caught in a gentle pull, they leaned toward each other, an electric uncertainty crackling between them until, in a swift moment, their lips brushed together, igniting a sensation that both thrilled and terrified them. It was a kiss that spoke of longing and unacknowledged affection, a culmination of every stolen glance and hidden smile. However, just as quickly as the spark ignited, Ethan withdrew, his heart racing with panic as the reality of their situation crashed upon him. He said that getting close would only lead to heartache, a cruel truth he believed deeply due to his illness and the shadow it cast over his future. His withdrawal left Sophie stunned and breathless, her mind swirling with confusion and longing as she tried to decipher the mix of emotions that had taken root within her, the string of unfinished feelings twanging painfully against her heart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a brilliant array of oranges and purples, Sophie's laughter mingled with the gentle crashing of waves outside the seaside hotel, an incongruous sound against the tension building within her. She was beginning to peel back the layers of Ethan's reserved nature, each lesson filled with the aroma of fresh coffee and the soft rustle of sheet music, creating an atmosphere that was as intoxicating as it was comforting. In those moments, as they sat side by side at the piano, his hands guiding hers, she felt a connection that transcended words, his trembling touch igniting a spark deep within her. But just as she began to believe that their relationship could blossom into something profound, a thunderous disruption loomed on the horizon, heralded by the arrival of Daniel Choi, her past embodied in tailored suits and sharp, calculating eyes. Daniel stormed into the hotel lobby like a gust of cold wind, and Sophie's heart sank as she spotted him. There he was, the promise of an arranged future that loomed ominously over her newfound freedom. He demanded her attention with an assertive tone that echoed throughout the elegant space, and as Sophie watched him approach, frustration brewed within her. She was no longer the submissive woman he expected her to be, and yet, as he closed the distance between them, she felt the weight of their past settle heavily on her shoulders. Daniel's piercing gaze swept over the surroundings, then fixed on Sophie, a smirk creeping across his lips as he said that she was making a grave mistake trying to live without him. Just as she thought she could escape him, he was here to pull her back into the life she fought so hard to escape. Their heated argument unfolded like a tempest, each word sharper than the last, but it was the shocking revelation that cut the deepest. Daniel, with a breath of condescension, revealed Ethan's secret, exposing the fear that lurked behind Ethan's cold facade. "He's sick, Sophie," Daniel declared, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "This is merely a distraction from the truth. His condition is worsening, and soon, he will be nothing more than a shadow of the once great musician you idolized." The air thickened with disbelief and betrayal as Sophie felt the ground beneath her shake. The stakes had never been higher, and for the first time since their encounter, she truly questioned Ethan's motives. The exhilaration she derived from being near him turned toxic as that crushing reality set in. Panic clawed at her chest as she rushed to confront Ethan, her heart pounding like a runaway train. She found him secluded in the dim light of the lounge, attempting to drown himself in music, the haunting notes swirling around them like an unseen ghost. As he played, his fingers glided over the keys, creating soundscapes filled with unexpressed longing, yet when he noticed Sophie standing there, the melody faltered and stopped, leaving an awkward silence hanging heavy in the air. He glanced at her, masking his vulnerability with an indifferent expression, and Sophie seized that moment to confront him. "Why didn't you tell me?" she said, the hurt evident in her voice. "Why didn't you trust me?" Ethan's icy demeanor returned as he shook his head slightly, the shadows around him growing darker. His stoic facade crumbled just enough for her to catch a glimpse of his internal struggle. He replied that their relationship was nothing but a fleeting moment, a passing phase in the grand scheme of his life, and he couldn't let her be dragged down with him. The bitterness of his words pierced her heart, the venomous aftertaste leaving her in disbelief. In a desperate attempt to protect himself, he pushed her away, driving deep a wound he didn't realize the impact of until it was too late. Their love, which had begun to bloom into something beautiful, was demeaned in an instant, reduced to an illusion in his eyes. Feeling the heat of anguish pooling in her chest, Sophie made her decision, one filled with resignation and heartache. She turned away from Ethan, her heart splintering into 1,000 pieces. In the corridor, the distant sounds of the hotel faded into silence as she walked away, the shadows of their shared moments clinging to her like an unseen cloak. She had hoped for something real, for a flicker of hope amidst her chaotic world, but now, doubts cascaded like the waves outside, crashing over her resolve, convincing her that what they had was merely a fleeting entanglement, a beautiful yet unachievable dream. Stepping into the void where their love had once resided, she resolved to leave, convinced that their connection could never defy the hands of fate. As she descended the lavish staircase, Sophie felt the weight of her choice bear down on her, unaware that the echoes of her heart would not fade easily from the music sheets of Ethan's life. Ethan's absence from the public sphere was palpable, a void that reverberated through concert halls and living rooms alike, leaving an echo of sorrow and uncertainty. Sophie wandered through the empty streets of Seoul, the vibrant energy that once fueled her spirit now dulled by an oppressive haze of heartbreak. Each corner she turned felt like a reminder of Ethan, the cafe where they shared laughter over spilled coffee, the park bench where they had first kissed under a blooming cherry tree, and the grand halls of the hotel that had become their sanctuary. Without him, the world felt muted, colors drained from her life as if balm had been applied to her once spirited heart. She often lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the echoes of his laughter and the way his eyes shimmered with unspilled emotions that felt so real and yet so far away. The love they had forged through laughter and shared music lingered in the air, like an unfinished melody desperate for resolution. When she returned home, her mother's relentless questions about her engagement to Daniel weighed heavily on her shoulders, and Sophie, fueled by newfound resolve, met her family's expectations with defiance. "I'm not going back," she declared, each word liberating her from the chains of obligation that had bound her. Her parents' faces fell, shock washing over them like a sudden downpour, but Sophie couldn't suppress the surge of independence that surged through her veins. She handed the engagement ring back to Daniel when they met, a symbolic severing of ties that brought her both relief and guilt. "You deserve someone who can choose you," she said firmly, her voice steadier than she felt inside. As he stood there, momentarily speechless, she caught a glimpse of resentment and betrayal flickering in his eyes, but she didn't waver. That decision felt monumental, yet empty, as freedom quickly morphed into an intricate web of doubt, making her question the path she had chosen. Meanwhile, Ethan secluded himself in his dimly lit apartment, the shadows closing in on him as he prepared for an upcoming surgery. Each passing day blurred into the next, filled with the ghost of melodies he could no longer play, music notes floating away like wisps of fleeting dreams. He tried to convince himself that distancing Sophie was the right choice, thinking that was the only way to shield her from the inevitable pain that his condition would bring. Yet, as he lay on the crisp, white sheets, staring at the ceiling, the memory of her laughter danced through his mind. He noted how her spirit had ignited something within him that he thought had long been extinguished. He recalled the way she challenged him to connect with the music he was losing touch with, flipping between the joys of discovery and the bitter reality of what lay ahead. In quiet solitude, he cradled the delicate balance of hope and despair, nourishing desperate wishes that very different worlds could find a common melody. His fingers itched for the piano keys, yet he hesitated, paralyzed by uncertainty. He had to prepare himself for the worst, a possibility of loss not only of his skills but also of Sophie's unwavering belief in him. When shadows tagged at the edges of his new reality, his memories of Sophie played like a haunting refrain, filling him with both warmth and regret. As he considered the operation that lay ahead, he felt the weight of the decision that had torn them apart, echoing within his heart a soft but undeniable question: was he truly protecting her, or had he only set her free while locking himself away in a cage of despair? The answers lay hidden in the folds of their shared experiences, and with every passing moment, the yearning to reach out became a battle against his self-imposed isolation. Time slipped away as he wrestled with memories of Sophie, the bittersweet taste of their moments together wrapping around him like tendrils of regret, all the while the surgery loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon, promising change whether for better or worse. As the rain pattered relentlessly against the windows of her tiny apartment, Sophie Kim struggled to process the whirlwind of emotions that had enveloped her since she learned about Ethan Park's impending surgery. It was a decision that twisted at her heart, forcing her to confront the undeniable truth that she could no longer hide from her feelings. She recalled the long nights spent together, the way his music had ignited a spark in her that she never knew existed. It was an awakening she couldn't let fade into silence. With a newfound resolve coursing through her veins, she gathered her belongings, determination leading her away from her suffocating life and into the unpredictable chaos of love. Defying her father's threats, the looming shadow of his disapproval, and the weight of expectations, Sophie knew she had to fight for Ethan. Each step toward him felt steeped in urgency, a rhythm echoing her heartbeat as she made her way through the streets of Seoul, her mind racing with worry and anticipation. Navigating through the city's familiar yet unfamiliar landscapes, she finally stood before a secluded house, hidden away from the world that so often felt unwelcoming. The rain was relentless, a comforting symphony that urged her onward as she breached the threshold of that space. Breathing deeply, she burst through the door, her heart pounding with each stride toward where Ethan sat alone, a mere shadow of the man she had come to adore. His face was pale, the weight of uncertainty hung like a shroud around him, and for a moment, her heart ached at the sight of him so vulnerable. He looked up, surprise etched in his features, but the cold barrier he had constructed remained firmly in place. Sophie, however, was not deterred. She stepped closer, her voice quivering with a mix of fear and bravery as she demanded to know why he had pushed her away, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, refusing to accept the distance he had created between them. Ethan's gaze softened for a fleeting moment before the walls around his heart became impenetrable once more. He looked away, helplessness and regret clashing in the depths of his eyes as he attempted to shield her from the truth that was suffocating him. He spoke slowly, each word a reluctant confession to the overwhelming love he felt yet felt was a burden, saying that it's for your own good, Sophie. I can't drag you into this darkness. The intensity of his emotions was palpable, and Sophie, undeterred by his resolve, pressed him harder, insisting that she would stand with him, challenging the icy armor he wore. In that charged moment, the room reverberated with their unspoken desires and fears, aching to break free from the confines of silence. Sophie reached for his hand, the warmth of her palm connecting with his cool skin like a beacon of hope. I've come too far to let you go now, she said, her voice steady despite the tremors within. Ethan's composure shattered, vulnerability spilling forth as he finally admitted the depth of his feelings, saying that he loved her with an intensity that frightened him, but he could not bring her into a future filled with uncertainty. Sophie watched his inner turmoil wrestle with his heart, the battle raging on until she resolved to bridge the gap, defying his fears with her own unwavering conviction. Standing by his side, her heart echoed with the promise of love, unwavering despite the crumbling facade he tried to maintain. It was in that simple yet monumental moment, surrounded by the heaviness of their circumstances, that Sophie chose to remain. She said that she would not let him face this alone, her spirit igniting a flicker of warmth in the chilly room. This wasn't just about music, it was about the cadence of their lives entwined, a melody waiting to be played. They would navigate this uncertain path together, letting love guide them through the storm that loomed ahead. As dawn broke over Seoul, a soft golden light seeped through the clinical windows of the hospital, igniting the sterile space with a glimmer of hope. Sophie Kim stood by Ethan Park's bedside, her heart heavy yet resolute. The beeping of the monitors and the faint scent of antiseptic mixed with the distant echo of hurried footsteps filled the air, a stark reminder of the gravity of the moment. She grasped his hand tightly, feeling the warmth of his skin under her fingers, grounding herself in the reality of this whirlwind of emotions. Ethan lay there, pale and still, the weight of uncertainty pressing down upon them both. She brushed a stray hair from his forehead, whispering softly that he wasn't alone, that she was right there with him. The intensity of her gaze met his as he stirred awake, confusion clouding his usually keen eyes. In the fleeting moments before the surgery, he searched her face, vulnerability etched into every line, and asked her in a voice barely above a whisper if she would still love him even if he lost his hands. The words hung between them, laden with unspoken fears and unyielding love. Sophie's heart shattered at the thought, but she forced a smile through her tears, assuring him with all the strength she could muster that her love was unwavering, that it transcended physicality. She promised him that their connection ran deeper than mere fingers dancing across piano keys. As she squeezed his hand tighter, she could feel his breath catch, a flicker of relief crossing his face before the staff entered to prep him for the procedure. The world faded away as they rolled him down the corridor, the harsh fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. As Sophie followed close behind, her mind raced through memories of laughter and shared dreams, of music binding their souls together. This was not just a surgery, it was a crossroads in their lives. She turned away briefly, the walls closing in around her as the realization struck that this could change everything. In the sterile waiting area, she sat in solitude, anxiety gnawing at her, the clock ticking in a mocking rhythm that echoed her heart's turmoil. Minutes stretched into an eternity, each tick amplifying her doubts, but she clung to her vow, envisioning Ethan's fingers gliding over the piano, creating magic just as they once had. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the surgeon approached, his expression inscrutable. He conveyed the gravity of the operation, both the hope and the uncertainty that lay ahead. Sophie nodded numbly, gratitude mingling with fear, as she couldn't shake the image of him, the man who had captivated her and reignited her passion for life, lying under the stark white sheets. After losing enough time in that sterile room, she needed to be close to him, to be reminded of their world. Ignoring the urge to wallow, she made her way back to where Ethan had once found his solace, the grand piano in the lobby, a silent testament to their intertwined destinies. Standing before the magnificent instrument, Sophie closed her eyes, drawing in the scent of polished wood and aged ivory that enveloped her like a comforting embrace. She placed her hands upon the keys, where Ethan had meticulously crafted the melodies that spoke of love, longing, and dreams unrealized. With hesitant fingers, she began to play, allowing the notes to flow freely, capturing the essence of her heartache yet also the resilience that had blossomed within her because of him. As the melody unfurled, memories of their lessons danced in her mind, each note a celebration of the time they shared, the heated discussions, the playful clashes, the tender moments when the world outside faded away. Sophie poured her soul into the piano, the music rising and falling like waves crashing against shore. The hauntingly beautiful strains filled the empty space, wrapping around her as if she were reaching out to Ethan, hoping that he could somehow hear her. In the swell of emotion, she crafted the melody he had once composed for her, pouring every ounce of her love into it, wishing fervently that he would find strength in the music, just as he had inspired her to reclaim her life. In that vital moment, she believed with all her heart that love transcended everything, even time and circumstance. Time seemed to slip away as she played, her heart synchronized to the rhythm of the music, each note reverberating through the air like a prayer, urgent and filled with hope. In the silence that followed, she whispered promises to the universe, vowing to fight for their love, no matter the obstacles. As the last notes lingered in the air like a sigh, she saw Ethan in her mind's eye, strong yet fragile, a fierce spirit tempered by vulnerability. She imagined him awakening to her melody, feeling her presence even in his unconscious state, knowing the depths of their bond transcended the physical world. In that moment, she found solace, a determination sparking inside her to be there for him, to guide him back to the music and life they once envisioned together. Weeks dragged on in a tense silence, punctuated only by the soft sounds of the piano, which now felt like a ghostly echo of what it used to be. Ethan Park sat before the grand instrument, his fingers trembling as they hovered just above the keys. Each movement felt foreign, as though the music he once commanded was slipping through his grasp, leaving only a hollow memory. The shadows in the room mirrored his growing despair, the uncertainty of his future loomed like an ominous storm cloud, casting a pall over every note he desperately attempted to play. Sophie Kim, unwavering in her devotion, stood by him with the fierce determination that had always characterized her spirit, refusing to let anything diminish the flame of hope they had ignited together. She said that music was not merely about proficient technique but rather the emotions that fueled each note, the very essence of what connected souls in a symphony of shared experiences. Those words echoed in Ethan's mind, a gentle reminder that perhaps, amidst his struggles, he could yet find a way to reconnect with the passion that had once defined him. As the sun dipped low, casting golden hues across the room, Sophie approached him with a softness that melted his resolve. There was a spark in her eyes, a combination of hope and determination, as she watched him grapple with the piano. "Let's not strive for perfection," she suggested, her voice a soothing balm to his frayed nerves. "Instead, let's celebrate what's still there." With that, she stepped closer, placing her hands over his, their warmth mingling as if to remind him of the connection they still shared, one that transcended the boundaries of mere notes and keys. In that moment of vulnerability, when their hearts spoke louder than words, they became a duo once more, the lesson shifting as they began to weave melodies that resonated with the intensity of their feelings. Ethan felt the electricity between them, and as he closed his eyes, the music flowed through him in a way he hadn't thought possible. The sensations coursing through his hands were no longer mere physical movements but rather expressions of a deeper understanding of love, loss, and the will to endure. He played, allowing his emotions to unlock the gates of creativity that had long been locked. With each note, he stitched together the very experiences that had shaped his soul, intertwining them with Sophie's unwavering presence. She guided him gently, just as he had once done for her. He could almost hear her laughter as she recalled her initial attempts to engage with music, a reminder that the journey was just as beautiful as the final destination. The melody gradually transformed into a reflection of their shared struggle. The triumphs and heartaches echoed in the seamless harmony they created. In this heartfelt moment, their love became the music that washed over the room, filling the emptiness with warmth and light, suffusing every corner with the promise that even against the backdrop of uncertainty, they could still find solace in each other. When the music finally came to a climactic pause, both Ethan and Sophie opened their eyes, breathless and exhilarated. He looked at her, and in that gaze, an unspoken vow was exchanged, one that promised resilience in the face of adversity. Ethan, heart full yet trembling with the weight of vulnerability, admitted that he had feared losing her amidst his struggles, but Sophie, with a knowing smile and unshed tears sparkling in her eyes, brushed aside his concerns. She said that even if the music he played could falter, his heart would always resonate with her, and that was more than enough. In that sacred space, where love and music intertwined, they found a rhythm that not only transcended Ethan's illness but became a testament to the unyielding strength of their bond. Their shared music became a gentle reminder that even if his hands were to fail him, they would never truly lose the essence of their love, an eternal melody that would remain etched in their hearts, undeterred by the tempest outside. As the news spread like wildfire, Ethan Park's world-renowned name returned to the forefront, igniting hope and doubt in equal measure throughout the music community and beyond. Critics speculated relentlessly on whether the ailing pianist could reclaim his former magic, conversations buzzing in cafes and online forums alike. Yet, amid the clamor, Sophie Kim believed fiercely that Ethan could transcend his limitations, her faith in him unshakable. On that fateful night, the venue glowed with an ethereal light, its atmosphere thick with anticipation as crowds gathered. Even those who had once doubted him now stood ready to witness his moment of courage. As the lights dimmed, a hush fell over the audience, a collective breath held in reverence, the air thick with a charged electricity that heightened the moment. Ethan stepped onto the stage, his heart racing, the whispers of his past echoing in his mind. The grand piano awaited him, a polished black silhouette reflecting the shimmering stage lights, as if beckoning him to return. With each step, he felt the weight of every expectation pressing on his shoulders, coupled with the sweet memory of Sophie, her unwavering support fueling his resolve. Pausing just before the keys, Ethan glanced toward the audience, feeling the nervous energy radiating from their eager hearts. He searched for Sophie's face among the sea of spectators, finding her eyes locked onto him, glistening with unshed tears, a kind of fierce inspiration coursing through him. Taking a deep breath, he placed his trembling fingers above the piano keys, feeling the cool surface beneath him, a tactile reminder of the music that had both saved and haunted him. With a surge of determination, he began to play, his fingers moving with surprising grace over the keys, as if each note were a thread weaving together the tapestry of their shared love story. The melody that spilled forth was a bittersweet concoction, reflecting both the pain of his and Sophie's journey as well as the joy of their undeniable connection. As the sounds filled the concert hall, the audience was transported into an emotional whirlwind, each note reverberating with the memories of laughter, passion, and heartache they had endured together. With every crescendo and delicate piano roll, Ethan poured his soul into the performance, crafting an ode to the love that had found him amid darkness. The audience, spellbound, held on to the music as they too felt the weight of his struggles, as though they were experiencing Sophie's heartache through every evocative chord. As the melody swelled, Ethan could almost see Sophie's encouraging smile imprinted in his mind, her presence comforting him against the storm of uncertainty that he had faced both before and after his surgery. As he approached the final notes, time slowed, and he allowed himself a moment to lose himself in the magic of the piano, releasing every worry, every regret, and transforming them into something beautiful. With the last chord lingering in the air, he sat in silence, heart pounding not just with the exertion of the performance but with an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and longing. The applause erupted, a tidal wave of appreciation sweeping over him, yet with all the cheers and accolades surrounding him, Ethan's gaze was fixed solely on Sophie. In the sea of applause and excitement, his heart hammered for that familiar connection, and there she was, tears streaming down her cheeks, her expression a blend of pride and love that ignited a warmth within him. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the rest of the world faded away, leaving only their shared journey and the promise their love held. Ethan whispered to himself that this was their moment, the culmination of all those nights spent questioning their fates and battling the shadows of their pasts. As he took a step back from the piano, the final note dissipating into the room, Ethan felt a bittersweet sensation wash over him, knowing that this performance wasn't just a farewell, but a declaration of hope and a future worth fighting for. The applause continued to swell around him, but he only looked towards Sophie, where her heart echoed his own, a harmony of dreams, love, and the unyielding belief that together, they could conquer anything life threw their way. As the applause echoed through the grand auditorium, a symphony of emotions surged within Ethan and Sophie. They stood in the intimate glow of the backstage lights, the chaos of the concert melding into a moment of singular clarity. Ethan, with fingers still trembling from the performance, held Sophie tightly, the weight of their past struggles melting away as he felt her warmth against him. He whispered once more, this time, it's forever, and the promise resonated between them, solidifying their unbreakable bond. In the days that followed, bustling with the excitement of their new journey together, they transformed the once quiet seaside hotel into a vibrant music school that pulsated with life and creativity. Children laughed as they learned and shared their dreams, while Ethan and Sophie fostered an environment filled with encouragement and the intoxicating joy of music. They painted the walls with notes of melodies, creating a sanctuary where young hearts could sing their truths. But just as their dreams flourished, an unexpected letter arrived, unfurling like an ominous curtain across their new beginning. It contained a cryptic message revealing a shocking connection from Ethan's past, one that could threaten everything they had built together. As they stared at the parchment, the weight of uncertainty loomed over them, yet they refused to succumb to fear. With their hands intertwined, Sophie's fierce spirit igniting Ethan's quiet determination, they faced the unknown with a shared resolve. Ethan turned to Sophie, his gaze piercing yet full of unyielding love, and they knew deep down that this was merely the beginning of a new, complicated symphony. With music playing softly in the background, their future shimmered with both danger and promise, and as night enveloped them, they shared a kiss under the stars, sealing a pact not just of passion, but of courage to face whatever lay ahead. Their laughter and whispers mingled with the sound of the waves, the echo of their unbreakable spirits daring fate to challenge them. In that moment, beneath the expansive sky, it was clear they were ready to compose their next movement, together, regardless of where destiny would lead. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to Happiness of Love. That way, you won't miss any of our heartfelt romances. See you in the next love story.